Alright, I
was
got 9
thinking
o'clock.
himself. He was south. Okay.
I got 9 o'clock, so we'll start our August 2nd, 2016 board meeting. Everybody join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, we got agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
Move the agenda review.
Got a first, I got a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Alright, we'll start with committee reports. Vance, I think I'll start with you this morning.
How much time you got?
You have 15 minutes for all 5 of us.
I think we're...
I think
Let
it's short
the
meeting
schedule's a
today. I'll
little
do mine
lighter
at the
so you
end.
can do that.
All right.
I'll do mine at the end.
Yeah. Well, we'll start with the July 19th, which is our last board meeting. I went to Officer Sandy Schnorrenberg's retirement over at the Public Safety Building. It was nice. I worked with Sandy for years on the Mankato Department of Public Safety, and she's now going to be running security up at Mankato State University. I then went to the open house for Kasaf 41 Bridge. The main issue I was hearing from people is they want to have a boat landing off from that bridge area. July 20th, we had a County Ambassador Program graduation right here. Then there was a new employee orientation at the Justice Center, and I went to Tanya Angie's, I guess you can call it a retirement or reception, going away at the Civic Center downtown. She will be going to Boulder, Colorado as the...
She's there.
Okay. On the 21st, I flew to Los Angeles for the NACO annual convention. On the 22nd, starting at 7:30 in the morning, I started my meetings. I had a Transportation Policy Steering Committee resolution meeting. Then I had Transportation Subcommittee meetings, which different subcommittees are ports, roads, rail, and airports. And then we had a Transportation Business meeting. I left the policy resolutions in front of every single one of you. There was 2 of them that I authored or co-authored. I co-authored one and authored the first one. The proposed resolution to establish and clarify NACO's legislative priorities for FAA reauthorization has to do with opposing the privatization of airports and increasing the passenger facility charge at your large hubs. Right now the passenger facility charge is at $4.50 a person. Increasing that to $8.50 a person would allow the large hubs to take up the demand that's going on in some of the large hubs, help them with security, help them with building of their areas. We keep on seeing the backups and the stuff going on. In tune, the large hubs then would redirect savings for the program entitlements, which for Minneapolis, St. Paul is up to $6 to $7 million per year, and they would give those program entitlements to the smaller airports, such as Mankato, St. Cloud, some of the other ones that can't receive those funding. The other one that I co-sponsored with Peter McLaughlin was on drones and giving counties a voice in how they're going to manage it. Right now, there's going to be a 40-person panel, and we just want to be on board. counties across the United States own 34% of all the airports across the United States. And for us not to be on board when they start regulating how drones are supposed to be used, especially not so much just for airports, but for county use itself. I mean, I don't know, Kip, how you would feel if you had a drone flying around your place, but some people get a little bit nervous about it. So that's kind of like getting local people that talk about how you put controls, and we just want to have somebody on that board. The biggest issue there is, we said we want more than one. It's supposed to be a 40-man board, and they're talking about having one county official, and we said, so there was amendments adding that. So it wasn't anything against the proposal, but more of how many we should have.
Did they ever talk about the airspace above people's property and things like that?
Well, that's
the big-
all what we're talking about with the drones and stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, FAA considers anything taller than your grass is their space.
Yeah,
So it's an interesting concept.
yeah.
But when you're working with the federal government like that, all of us know how that works. On the 23rd, I started with the freight rail talk on partnering with local governments to enhance safety, and then went to the Rural Action Caucus meeting. I went to an Arts and Culture Commission meeting on the role of local art agencies in developing local art programming and local community and economic development efforts. There was a general session with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That was interesting. God, is he big.
7'2".
And then
7'2".
and then Jack Dangermond, who is the founder and president of ESRI, and we use ESRI here in the county quite a bit for GSI. We had our Minnesota Delegation Caucus, and we voted to do a block vote for California Commissioner Greg Cox for NACO Vice President. And then that evening went to a NACIO Awards reception where our own Jesse Beyer is president of NACIO, and I believe Drew was there too, right? So we had a nice reception that evening. On July 24th, I went to a class on ethical leadership in an era where public distrust of all levels of government is growing. It is increasingly important for county officials to ensure they are up to date on ethics laws. There was one speaker I wasn't really impressed with. She was a commissioner from Florida that was arrested and put in prison for 2 years. She was taking freebies all over the place, and she was doing a very good job at minimizing what she did and demonizing what the federal government did. And I was the last person to ask a question. I basically told her exactly that, and she didn't have much to say about that. But everybody was kind of clapping that I asked that question. It's interesting what some of these commissioners across the United States think they can and can't do. I mean, it's like, why do you think you can get freebies like that? Because everybody else does, and that's the answer. I did innovations in water infrastructure financing and delivery, service delivery. I did, of course, a local road safety class on reducing fatalities and serious injuries on county roads. Had a lot to do with towards zero death, Drew.
Yeah, saw that.
Then I did a transportation steering committee tour on the Long Beach ports. Nice boat ride through the ports, but you watch. You do this boat ride, and then you see those huge cranes that are taking tons and tons of stuff off from these large ships, and
They look like big mechanical dinosaurs.
it's amazing.
They're enormous. They're
It's
lined
amazing.
up all over the port, and they're just everywhere.
I think they said that they can move 25 an hour off from those ships, one of those cranes. And a good crane hauler can be 25 an hour.
Those big containers that you.
They're railroad cars,
So that's just
basically.
a little
they're
bit over
yep,
2
big
minutes
metal, yeah,
per
big containers.
per car. Amazing. Then that evening, we had our luck wrap reception on the historic Queen Mary, which is right there in Long Beach. On the 25th, I did a Stepping Up meeting, which is considerations of reducing mental illness in the jails. We had our annual meeting and election. We voted on resolutions passed by the committees. And then we had an interesting vote on rural counties attempting to balance the voting by giving smaller counties votes more power. It was tabled for a year while the details are worked out. Chicago Commissioner Steele bowed out of the race, which left one person running for second vice president, so Colorado Commissioner Greg Cox ended up with the second vice president position. We then did our Central Region caucus directly after that meeting, and we had a vote giving Oklahoma Commissioner Cindy Bobbitt the chair position for another 2 years. On the 26th, I flew home. On the 27th, I did the Highway 14 partnership in Owatonna meeting. On the 28th, I had a TDS board meeting, and we voted to formally give Dan Sabiersma the director's position. Mr. Sabiersma has been the South Dakota librarian. He's held different positions of directorship across the United States. Out of the 4 people that we interviewed, he was he was head and tails above everybody else. He was really, I think we're really going to have a good guy there. Then that evening I did the AMC class on running an ethical meeting, and both Bob and Mike were there. And on the 29th I went to the Blue Earth County Fair, and I volunteered and did a herdsmanship judging at the Blue Earth County Fair. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Drew?
Get the 2 long ones done first.
Well, of course, that board meeting was July 19th, and we had our luncheon at the lakes out there in Lake Crystal afterwards. And then, of course, Wednesday the 20th, we had our county ambassador program final session with graduation, where we all were there, except for Will didn't make it that day, but we did talk about you a lot since you weren't there. I also went out to the NACO annual conference for 2016. My wife, Dawn, accompanied me also and registered to attend. She runs a nursing home in a small community outside Mankato, so she usually finds some things that are beneficial dealing with healthcare. And even Vance, it doesn't matter what flight you get. When you think about the day traveling out there, it takes a good portion of it. I mean, most of the day.
It's like a 4-hour flight.
Yeah, and then you've got 2 hours from here to the airport. You've got their parking, and then transportation from there to the site where we're going to have a convention. So it's a little bit of a time investment, and you're not even starting the conference yet, is what my point is. And Vance serves, on the Transportation Steering Committee, and I serve on the Health Policy Steering Committee. And Ann Borgeson is our chair. The staff person from NACO is Brian Bowden, and he deals directly with a lot of the issues. Hennepin County Commissioner Linda Higgins is involved, and she introduced a speaker regarding evidence-based practices, and that's a big thing nowadays, evidence-based, to look at the data, find out how the treatment's going, and collect data to see if it's working. And so, the Honorable Nancy Jackson from Colorado spoke on crisis services that they have. There is a project where they triage folks with mental health issues and with health issues, and to get them to the right place to go, and try to be more seamless about issues as they arise within your county. And more or less, she said that throughout the years, we've been real good at dismantling the mental health system. And we see the results of some of this happening. That now there's more homeless on our streets, there's people in our jails with mental health issues, and so she spoke to that need. What they do provide there in Colorado now is a new program. It's two major things for their crisis services is walk-in services, so that there's various sites where people can just walk in and get some kind of services. They also provide respite for people who are caring for people. And they also have mobile units, which a lot of counties now across the country have mobile units for mental health and try to go out and assess situations. One thing they do have also is a hotline 24 hours a day, and it's a linkage hotline system. People can, more recently, they can even text into this.
System. They can call in, there's a chat line attached to it. And the funding from Colorado is $20 million, which is not enough funding for this program. So they go out to foundations, they use fundraisers, they have actually earned revenues because a lot of mental health providers and sites throughout the state are utilizing these services that they've developed. So they're actually getting revenue back from that. I mean, I thought that was pretty interesting how you can develop something and then get revenue back. And so far they've been having about 58,000 contacts per year using these services, which is quite a bit, and it's actually in the long run is supposed to save money. Well, it doesn't sound like it, but it does. One of the biggest reasons they found that people are contacting them, people in crisis, is just very much related to anxiety about issues that are going on. And some of those can be alleviated just through a phone call, sometimes a text message, or stopping into a center and talking with somebody. Which saves money instead of having to go have somebody drive you to a hospitalization or some kind of crisis center. So one of these is an app. It's an app that they put on phones even. I thought that was interesting. And then there's a gentleman, I don't know if you've heard his name before, but he's a U.S. representative, Tony Cardenas. Cardenas, I'm not sure how he pronounces it. I believe he's a Latino man. He served 10 years on the LA City Council. He's also served 6 years as a state legislator in California, and now he's a U.S. representative for the 29th District of California. His emphasis coming to speak to us was on the issue we've talked about before, and that is that in many states and many counties, when somebody is incarcerated, they immediately are basically kicked off of their health insurance with Medicaid. And sometimes they're out within days, and then all of a sudden they don't have Medicaid. So they can't get, let's say that they're on some sort of mind or mood medication, and that actually affects their lives in a deeper way. So it becomes a tumbling effect, which is negative. And so he had a bunch of people, many states have got together, and they've got a bill that they're going to be offering through the House and hopefully to the Senate that would allow for people who are not convicted to continue with their Medicaid insurance, which is a big thing. And it's a huge savings to counties.
So in the Public Safety Subcommittee has worked on that for years.
Yes,
and
you know all about it.
They used to stop coverage, and we actually got it to the point where they just suspend it. So this is another step in the right direction.
Yeah,
So.
you've got it. You've got it. And there are certain people who are allowed to continue it, depending on their diagnoses. But anyway, I thought that was he was just very animated. I talked with him afterwards and met with him, and he just seemed very excited about it. He's got quite a background of being a servant in South Central California. Then Valerie Brown, I don't know if you remember that name. She was a former NACO member. I think when I came on as a commissioner, she was the NACO president, and she talked about the network of care. She developed a resource guide. I was talking about this resource guide. It's called networkofcare.org. So if anybody wants to check it out, it's a tool that you can use to help provide the proper services for people. And she said, we need something developed just like this for mental health. Because mental health is rising to the top as the cream of a very expensive issue going on in our nation. On Friday, the same day, I attended a luncheon on the opioid epidemic. And I know that you and Vance are aware of these issues
Actually, I
too,
was
and I'm
there.
sure all of us
I
are.
was there too, so.
Did you go?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to leave early, but I.
Okay. There was a gentleman there that wrote a book called Dreamland. And his name is Sam Quinones. He's an LA-based author and journalist. Kenton County jails use their jails as treatment programs. And they set up pods. And the inmates, they opt into this program. So since they're in jail, they might as well receive treatment while they're there. And so they've developed specified pod programs where they can opt in for treatment. And that goes for chemical dependency and for mental health issues. Of course, their jails are a little larger than our jails are. One of their pods alone is about the size of our jail. So they talked about how today painkillers are basically over-prescribed, and that there's different various reasons for this. Even the medical profession needs more education on why they are prescribing them. They're prescribing things that basically get people hooked, and once they're off of that prescription, they will seek out these opioids. And 250 million prescriptions were written for pain last year. That's just pain. 250 million. So we need sort of an awareness campaign about this issue and who is pushing the drugs and why. It's really affecting this country. And a lot of people spoke up at this luncheon, and it was quite I guess you don't really realize it till you hear the data, you know, how severe this is. And of course they talk about Narcan accessibility, so that we have more people dying. Now it's reached a breach point where more people are dying of overdoses from this addiction than are dying in car accidents in America. Just think about that once. It's a big deal. Anyway, so then later on we had our health policy business meeting, and of course, like Vance, we had resolutions. I had one that I mentioned before to you that went in, and mine was on that Social Security. It's called Proposed Resolution to Repeal and Reform Social Security COLA formula. And after reading extensively on this issue, we don't realize the importance, I don't think sometimes, and a lot of us don't in society, the importance of Social Security benefits in this country. It's a huge part of our infrastructure and support, and of course counties are that safety net for when people fall off of their ability to take care of themselves, whether it's financially or physically or mentally. And so Social Security, I'll tell you, it should be really a big county issue when you think about it, because if we don't continue to support that benefit, we're going to see more county involvement with people. So it's important to keep that COLA in place. The formula currently includes gasoline, and petroleum has been down, and they feel that's one of the reasons why no COLA was given for the third time now. This year, nobody receiving any type of Social Security benefits will get any increase, while their Medicaid co-pays have gone up, the insurance rates for that has gone up, and so it's obvious that people who are receiving Social Security benefits, their cost of living has gone up. It's a specific cohort of people. And that was, all of these resolutions, I believe, were passed. They did pull one or two for discussion, and that was through, believe it or not, that went to the Human Services and Education. So even though I'm on the Health Services, they work pretty closely together. we went over to that group of people to approve. And then also attended the Rural Caucus as Vance did. Won't go too much into it, but talked a lot about rural poverty. There was a White House Rural Council representative speaker there, Doug O'Brien. Basically stated those children in those conditions in rural poverty will be running the show, in those same areas in the future. And so it's our benefit to make sure that they've got what they need as children. People providing services are operating in silos. This is something I heard at several different venues that I was at, that we seem to be operating sometimes in these silos of our own discipline in county and state government, and that we need to work more on trying to have seamless, efficient service models so that we can not waste, we can be more efficient in how we provide services to our people.
Drew, I'm going to cut you off right there
Oh.
for just 1 minute. We got several staff people sitting in the audience
Oh,
that are,
okay.
we're way behind schedule, so I'm going to cut you off there.
Okay.
We're going to do our regularly scheduled program, and then we'll come back and finish these up. So,
All right.
I want to kind of stay on schedule. We got staff sitting in here, and we need to move these through. So, elections, Michael Stahlberg.
Morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Morning. I'm sure you guys really enjoy listening to our committee reports, but you've got plenty of other things to do, so.
Well, you're jumping to special programming on elections, so that
All right.
might be more exciting, right? So, good morning. As you know,
I'm
Michael.
excited.
Yeah, certain.
Michael Stahlberger, Director of Taxpayer Services. I have item number 5, page 35 of your agenda today. This is an election services contract. Blue Earth County for several elections now has contracted with Sea Change Print Innovations for a lot of our elections administration and ballot printing and management services. This contract will extend us through May 31st, 2020, which will be a couple of election cycles for us. The services they provide vary depending on the election, anywhere from setting up our ballot, making sure that it's published correctly, printed correctly, to folding and mailing our ballots, and providing other services related to absentee balloting and UOCAVA overseas military balloting. So the contract's value varies depending on the number of ballots we print in any election cycle. The last election cycle that we had, we were at about $40,000 for the overall contract. I'm requesting the board approve the contract so that we can continue to utilize Sea Change. Any questions?
Any questions for Michael?
Are there other companies out there that do the same thing?
There are a few other companies. We've had a long relationship with Sea Change. They're pretty good at what they're doing. Actually, they're very good at what they're doing. They walk us through the process, and as a new person in the elections world, it's nice to have a web-based solution that tells me exactly what to do, so I'm not missing anything out there.
Okay.
They're utilized by many other counties throughout the state as well.
And that's about the amount of dollars is roughly the same the last few times?
Yeah, like I said, it varies based on the number of voters that we have. So as our voter numbers have increased, we're printing more ballots, and that results in added costs there. We do bill back a pretty significant portion of that. All of our local jurisdictions pay for all of their printed ballots. We have about 3,000 mail ballot voters now in various precincts in the rural parts of the county, Skyline as well. And
Oh, so they pay then
and they would
for
pay
the-
for that as well. So we pay for the overall contract, and then we bill back through finance.
Okay.
I would move to approve.
Got
Second.
got a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thanks,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Put you back to work again.
County Ditch 48 petition. Craig and Ryan.
Hi, Craig.
Morning.
Ryan?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're item 6. We have a County Ditch 48 petition for improvement. What I'm going to be asking for is actually 2 separate board resolutions. County Ditch 48 is in Cambria and Butternut Townships, and I guess I'll go right to the board order here. We have a petition that's been filed with the Blue Earth County Taxpayer Services offices. The owners of at least 26% of the landowners have proposed improvement passes over, and the owners of at least 26% of the property affected by the proposed improvements have signed the petition. The petition does allege that the system is insufficient capacity, needs enlarging or extending to furnish a sufficient capacity or a better outlet. whereas the petition does describe the starting point, general course, and terminus, and the petition does state the proposed improvement will be a public utility and promote public health. The petition does contain an agreement by the petitioners that they will pay all costs and expenses that will be incurred if the improvement proceedings are dismissed. And the Drainage Authority has determined that the petition is legally adequate. There's a letter from Kurt Dieter in the back of the packet and a tab showing, stating that. And there is a bond for $50,000 has been filed. So those are all the requirements that for us to move forward. So we're requesting that the Charles J. Brandel of ISG be appointed as project engineer in order to examine the system and prepare an improvement report to be presented to the Blue Earth County Taxpayer Services Office Department and to the Division of Waters and Department of Natural Resources. That's the first order I'd like to have.
You got a first?
Second.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion, questions? Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, I just got a question. When these things come forward like this to us, and particularly in this one case, is there a goal or a deadline, timeline for this, so that we know it can be dealt with?
Timeline.
Petitioners must want it done by a certain time, so that, I would think.
Well, no, when doing an improvement, of course, the quickest improvement we've ever done is about a year and a half. We've had petitions that have taken 11 years.
Oh my goodness.
So,
what was wrong with that one?
Yeah, you weren't on the board. None of you were on the board for that one. So, that's and in fact, I was only on the board for the back end of that one. So,
okay.
So
2 years is usually a goal, or
2 years is more normal. 2 to 3 years is normal for a petition like this.
Oh, okay.
There's so many moving parts on these things that it's hard to predict.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I was just wondering, like when you're, if a particular company that's proposing the improvements, the engineering and that sort of thing, if they're so jammed up, they say, well, we can't get at this for 5 years or 4 years.
It's not the engineering. Engineering is usually not our roadblock.
It's not the big one. Okay.
Next, which is, our roadblock is usually the viewers, which is actually my second resolution
I saw
here.
that.
Okay. So,
okay, thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And segue to speed things up a bit, we've been actually appointing viewers to do a redetermination. This actually speeds up the process, usually by about 6 to 9 months by doing it at this particular time. Even though statute does not require this at this time, this is just trying to speed up the process here. So I'd like to appoint viewers to do a redetermination for County Ditch 48, Cambrian, Butternut Townships. The current benefits is original benefits, so it's very much out of date and do need to be updated. And if updating, even if the project should not go through, we really need to do a redetermination anyway. So I'm asking that the board appoint Tom Mahoney, Dan Ruby, Gary Ewert, and also Ron Rehnquist as the alternate and consultant for the project to prepare a viewer's report and for the redetermination of benefits.
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, I got a first and a second. And if the project was to fail, this would still come out of the ditch system, right? This would be
Yes.
part of the bond?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
How big was the watershed again?
This is about 1,000 acres.
That's what I was
Yeah, I
thinking.
think we measured at 1,030
Yeah,
or something
pretty
like that.
small,
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Anything else for us,
No,
gentlemen?
that's it today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day. MCCC Joint Powers Agreement. Charlie, morning.
Morning, Charlie.
Morning.
Well, as you can see by the memo that's in your packet, this is just the approval of the Joint Powers Agreement for the Minnesota Counties Computer Cooperative, otherwise known as MCCC. And at their recent annual meeting on June 8th, they changed or amended their Joint Powers Agreement. So that requires that each board of each county that is a member of MCCC has to go through and approve this joint powers agreement. Just a little background on MCCC. There's 55 member counties, and obviously Blue Earth County is one of those member counties. It's been in existence since 1978. And so basically what we're bringing today are just some minor changes to the joint powers agreement. You can see those are listed there. They've changed their abbreviation to MNCCC instead of MCCC, so that's basically a cosmetic change. Changed the voting threshold for making changes to the joint powers agreement. And they also removed some language about electronic voting, which actually moved from the joint powers agreement into the bylaws. And then the last thing is just to synchronize some of their language about non-payment or failure to pay with what's actually included in the bylaws and on invoices. So as it notes in the memo, there's no direct cost from this change to the joint powers agreement. Anything that we pay to MCCC is covered by separate contracts, and you might remember a couple of those that we brought to you earlier in the year. So at this point in time, what we're asking for is just approval of the amended joint powers agreement and then signature by the board chairperson. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'll move for approval of the Minnesota Counties Computer Cooperative Joint Powers Agreement.
Second.
Got a first and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Great, thank you very much.
Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie. Hey, we're catching right up here.
Mark, County Attorney's report, you have anything?
Well, want me to stand up here?
Sure.
Yeah, the other guy does that.
The other guy does.
Somebody then.
All right. I'm Mark Lindahl. I'm an assistant Blue Earth County attorney. I'm the chief assistant in the Human Services Juvenile Division.
Morning, Mark.
I think the numbers speak for themselves. I'm just going to comment a little bit. I work mainly in the child protection area, and I'll just comment a little bit on some things going on there. You may have seen the article in the newspaper about, I think it featured Kathy Sharon, and that Department of Human Services is going to be coming out with some new guidelines for screening child abuse cases, including some new guidelines on interviewing children. I think there's been the governor's task force that came forth with recommendations in these areas, and there's an anticipation that that could result in more cases. We never want to make it easy to remove a child from their home, but I think there's been a recognition we need to err a little more on the side of the children's safety, and that may result in more children being placed on holds and thus more child protection cases in the future. But I think if you look at the numbers, our numbers on our CHIPS cases has been pretty remarkably steady over the last few years. Pat McDermott and I just attended the Stand Against Child Abuse Conference in Duluth last week on Monday and Tuesday, and that was sponsored by the First Witness Child Advocacy Center up in Duluth, and also Minnesota Children's Alliance and a number of other sponsors, including the County Attorney's Office. One of the interesting things sessions I sat in on there was a presentation on the statewide plan for the inclusion of sex-trafficked children and youth in the child welfare system. And so this has been a result of actually an action by President Obama directing that those children should be treated as children in need of protection or services. In other words, that rather than treating them as perpetrators, we need to see them as victims or survivors of this kind of situation, and meet their needs as children in need of protection. And so the state's been working on a plan for that, but that's going to, those kind of cases are going to be very unique and require some special services and some special resources. It's recognized as really a huge problem across the country, and I think when people start looking for situations with sex-trafficked youth, if you start looking for it, you find it. And otherwise, I think it's kind of been below the radar until you know you become a little more sensitive to it. And I think Minnesota is, overall, is probably struggling with resources on it. There's about 33 beds they anticipate that will be available in placements for children in these situations, youth and children in these situations. And that's not a whole lot of facilities that can serve these youth. So anyway, that's a change that's going to be implemented in the next few years. I don't know how significant that will be for Blue Earth County, but that's just something, again, that is out there. I guess that's about it. If you had any questions for anything else, I'd be happy to comment.
I was
Any
just curious.
questions?
Go ahead.
Curious about the the truancy chart that's on here in the green. It shows a huge spike, you know, from 15 to 16, looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering if there's an issue going on or what's going on in the community.
Part of that may be the emphasis on the truancy intervention project that was instituted after Pat came on board as county attorney, and just a little more emphasis in that area. So maybe an encouragement for the school districts to be a little more on top of that. I think we haven't always, sometimes those things have been handled internally within the school, or maybe not handled so well, and I think that area has been getting additional attention, and that might account for an increase in the number of cases that we filed.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's interesting because I imagine truancy would be a lot like DWIs. It doesn't mean there's more or less, it means that you have an officer working harder on them.
I think that's probably correct.
Because like if you have officers that are pretty steadfast over the year and just writing a steady amount of DWIs, you know, you have a steady amount, all of a sudden you have one or two that really push at it, then your DWI count goes way up. Doesn't mean you have more drunk drivers, it just means you have more, just that you're arresting more.
Right.
And the way they report it.
Truancy would be the same thing. If you have more people working on it, you know, and getting the schools involved, getting the school liaison officers involved, along with the county attorney's office, I think all of a sudden you just shows, you know,
More reporting.
so it shows that it's going up. Doesn't mean there's more or less.
Could be the same.
Could be the same.
It's just getting reported different.
Just being reported different.
Right. And I think there's a hope that when you've intervened, yes, you'll probably have a spike, but there's a hope that it'll be viewed, you know, hey, there's going to be consequences to not going to school, that it's not acceptable to skip classes anymore, and maybe a change in the culture. So, the youth culture.
Thank you, Mark. Good
All right,
report.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to Public Works. Ryan.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you today?
Good.
Morning, Ryan.
Thanks for your call back last night, Ryan.
You're welcome.
I got a call from a person complaining about construction on Hoffman Road, and I pretty much knew that was a city issue, but I called Ryan, and he called me right back, and his son took the call, and he called me right back within 5 minutes, and pretty much told me, yep, that's exactly. And then I talked with Karen Foreman, who said that it's more the construction down by Victory and Hoffman that they're working on, and that actually was blocking off some places.
Mm-hmm.
I told her, I says I was happy it wasn't city issue. So.
Exactly, we'll take that. All right, well, I only have one action item for today, and it's consideration of the County State Highway 5, bridges number 07526, 7239, and 7240. These bridges are concrete channel span bridges where we had intended to take off the bridge deck, utilize the existing abutments, sawing them down slightly lower to facilitate a new slab span deck. The three bridges are all out on Industrial Road, north of Mankato, serving the quarry traffic and the traffic from the city of Kasota. The intent was to, based on the engineer's estimated amount, to pay for the project with local and transportation sales tax funds. The project did include a challenging time frame for completion, primarily because of the Highway 169 detour traffic. A lot of that, as you're aware, is being pushed and people are utilizing Highway 22. We didn't want to close 3rd Avenue or County Stated Highway 5 until that detour was over. So our contract provisions had the contractor starting in mid to late September after MnDOT's work and detour was taken off, and trying to get the project done yet this year. We did speak prior to bidding it with our bridge consultant engineer who had designed it, SEH, and they felt there was appetite for the smaller bridge contractors that would be interested in bidding this work because of the shortage of bridge funds that have been made available over the recent years. Unfortunately, our bid results, it came in considerably higher than estimated, and we thought our estimate was fairly conservative. We did revisit the amounts from the previous bid, but in the end, I think the contractors that bid on it had plenty of work and were concerned about the brief time frame. As you can tell by the project bid summary, the total came in 40% over our 48% over the engineer's estimated amount. I do have the contract or the project bid abstracts if you'd like to view the detailed unit prices. However, I would ask for those back. Based on all of these factors, my recommendation is that we reject bids and provide consideration of whether or not bridge transportation bonding bill may be passed in the coming months, and if bridge bond funds become available, we could use those to offset any additional costs, and also to rebid the project this late fall or very, very early next year. Again, provide the contractor with a much larger window for completion of the work, while still utilizing a relatively tight time frame when they start to get the work done, but giving them a bigger window so that they can fit it in with their crew availabilities. That's a similar approach that we took with the County Road 147 bridge. When we initially bid it and the estimates came in considerably higher, we provided the contractor with a more flexible schedule, and it did result in lower bids the second time around.
Do I have a motion to reject the bids at this point?
So moved.
Got a first and a second, now we got discussion.
I'd like to ask him a question.
Yeah.
Before we vote on that, is there one particular bridge that's costing more than, I mean, because it's hard to know if you've got 3 bridges, because normally we don't bid 3 bridges, we do 1 bridge at a time.
No,
in this case, they're grouped together in 3s, and I'm just wondering if there's one particular project that's pushing this a little bit higher.
I don't believe so, because they're all very, very similar in scope, and they're all geographically within about 1.5 miles of each other. The southernmost bridge is at the curve where you come around right next to Vetter Stone Quarry. The subsequent bridges, the second one is about 1/4 mile or 1/2 mile south of the county line, and the northernmost bridge is right at the county line. So the 3 are makes sense to bid them together as a package because the scope of work is the same. They're all similar bridge decks that we can take off, redeck, use the existing abutment, so it minimizes risk to the contractors as far as having to work in water, work with the bedrock below. They're relatively simple projects. I think we did speak with one of the contractors that bid on the project, and they had just cited time frame was a challenge to get it completed this year. And they had actually cited their surprise that some of the smaller bridge contractors had not bid on it. They were actually surprised to see that. They had expected that one of the guys that generally pick up 4 or 5 bridges a year would move in, and this would be an ideal project for one of those candidates.
Well, and with the time frame of waiting for the highway to open, whatever date they pick for that. I mean, a small project in Eagle Lake, they missed by 2 weeks.
Correct.
A very small project. What if they miss this? I mean, there's just a lot of risk there for
and
the
going
contract.
into the winter, it is a challenge.
If it doesn't get open till, if 169 doesn't get open till the end of October, then they're working into the winter, so.
So with your experience and expertise, which obviously we don't have, can the bridges go another year?
Right now, the bridges are not load posted as far as restrictions of the weights. We do have concerns about this bridge because it is a relatively weak section. However, MnDOT has looked at the bridge and they haven't noted any major concerns. I think the bridge comfortable with proceeding another year without replacing the bridge, but I do want to keep it at the forefront of our program.
I mean, that's obviously, I mean, we don't need to have a a large John Deere tractor going through the bridge.
Absolutely.
Or a semi, or, you know, we don't, you know, that would obviously, all of a sudden turn it into an emergency that has to, I mean, whether or not anything gets hurt, I mean, the bridge falls apart, we have to close down the whole road, so.
Correct.
Oh.
We had waited this long in anticipation that the legislature would authorize transportation bonding, and that we would get bridge bonding for these. They should be fairly high on the priority list. Unfortunately, that has not happened yet. That's why we waited. We had another requirement with respect to the specifications for the project, that we wanted to get it bid prior to August 1st, is why we elected to use our local funds for it at this point in time. As I'd stated, our staff has inspected the bridges. I've been under them. All of our certified bridge safety inspectors have been under them. We've also had MnDOT certified bridge safety inspectors reviewing the bridges. While it is deteriorated and of concern, at this point, they did not make any recommendation for closure of the bridges or significant load reductions.
Is 10 ton right now?
Yep, and this serves, my primary concern for these especially is the amount of heavy industrial quarry traffic that it serves.
Oh, sure.
So
Sure.
that's why we're keeping them at the top of our list.
And it'd be hard,
They're short bridges, they're not very long, are they?
That's correct. Yep.
and it'd be hard to load post them, because that would restrict.
Absolutely, all of the industrial
But if we
traffic.
need to, we need to.
If it does warrant it, we will.
Okay.
I drive them a lot, so if there's a problem, I'll let you.
Mark will let us know.
Mark's load testing.
I'll either be in the whatever water
And
delivery.
that real heavy,
Jeep
of yours, that would tear it.
Mark will stop once a week and look at them for us.
Yeah, right, good.
I spend way too much time out there too, so.
Yeah.
I know what you-
Yeah, you would, yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, but I'm going there, I'm going to Kasota for fun.
I know what you're going there for.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Well, we'll look to advance those in the future, depending on funding.
Keep us posted.
Yeah, absolutely. Informational items, the Rapidan Dam, the Army Corps of Engineers and the DNR permit have been received. The project has been advertised. We're gonna open bids on August 16th, and I'll be back at the subsequent board meeting for consideration of those bids. We're excited about getting that project out. It's been a
Nice.
long time coming and a lot of work and coordination with our partners at Eagle Creek Renewable Energy and FERC. Guaranteed sand and gravel property, the notice of intent to exercise option to purchase was delivered this past Friday to Southern Minnesota Construction. We anticipate closing on the property within approximately a month of delivery of that letter. We'll be working to hold joint meetings with the City of Mankato staff to discuss the scope and implementation timeframe for any potential enhancements to the property. There are many items that need to be determined yet, including naming, enhancements, when it'll be made open to the public, and we hope to work through that process in the coming month. The current construction projects, County State Aid Highway 1, the turn back of Old Highway 66 from Good Thunder to County State Aid Highway 9. The grading is nearly complete. The contractor is currently working on finish grading, and then they'll begin hauling aggregates on the project this upcoming month. So given the rain, the project's a little behind, but it's still progressing pretty well. I was out there last week and was very happy with the progress. It'll be a very nice road with the new curve and the realignments on the south mile and a half. It'll be a good road for the future. County Road 147 bridge, the only remaining work item is staining the form line abutments to resemble quarried limestone. The contractor is waiting on the river levels to lower to an appropriate level so that they can get that finish as low as possible. County State Aid Highway 1 from Trunk Highway 30 to Good Thunder, cold in place recycling and paving. Currently, the cold in place recycling train is out there right now, so there's a mill machine in the front grinding the pavement up, and then there's a tanker following that's injecting the asphalt emulsion, followed by a paving operation that's relaying that ground up and emulsified product down and rolling it behind it to compact it. So
Wow.
they cover about 3 miles a day or so. So they should be close to completion with the cold in place recycling part on the 6.5 miles within by the end of the week or so, pending any further breakdowns or weather issues. Following that, they'll begin hauling aggregates onto the regrade section to bring that up to the final grade, and then subsequently paving the remainder of the project. So that should move along pretty nicely. Maintenance overlays have been completed. County State Aid Highway 8, which is Monks Avenue, and County State Aid Highway 60 is Stadium Road. The road is open to the traffic, the Vikings are crossing it, everybody's utilizing the road, looks really nice. There's still a few items that need to be completed by the city's contractors. One of those is installing some striping items that were actually supposed to be ground into the pavement because the pavement was still relatively fresh. The grinding heads were kind of plugging up because the material was still so sticky. So they're going to wait till after the Vikings training camp has passed, and then they'll finish installing those few striping and crosswalk items.
Nice.
Vernon Center shop, we do have a contract approved to Go Switch Construction. Demolition is beginning this week. We are discovering some additional items in the shop with respect to the ceiling and making some revisions to the design as we go, but that'll be a very nice project to bring that shop up to current standards, and it's good to have the contractor in there working. We should be back into it by mid to late November. So the rest of our crews have been pushed out to the surrounding out shops. We also have Lakeview Road, which is a township road that it is utilizing the state park road account funding. So the township had their consultant engineer design the plans for that, submit those through state aid for approval. The county is administering that money. We also decided, given we had some excess local road and bridge money available yet this year, to do an additional paving contract to gain some economy of scale and pave County Road 146 from Willow Creek to the north, down in the southwest corner of the county. We're opening those bids as well on August 16th, so we'll have those for the subsequent board meeting for your consideration. But bituminous prices this year have been very advantageous, so that's why we had some excess capital to put back into our infrastructure. We're working on our planning projects, County State Aid Highway 1, the north segment of Old 66 from County State Aid Highway 9 to the city of Mankato. We held a project management team meeting last week between Blue Earth County staff, SRF, who is the road design consultant, and Gale Tech Engineering, who is our geotechnical consultant. We worked with Gale Tech and SRF quite a bit extensively in the past with very good results. We've set up another meeting for the end of August. Gale Tech has conducted soil sampling. They're currently waiting final results for consolidation testing, so they take the soils that they've sampled, put them under loads and test to determine the consolidation rate of those soils. As you load them with excess loading and weight, they can actually determine a rate that those will consolidate and when they'll stop sinking and when they'll stabilize. And then they'll incorporate that into their final design, because we do have a few areas where we have soft underlying soils. Things we've definitely dealt with before in the past and had to use geotextile fabrics, surcharges, wick drains. So we have the tools at our disposal. Right now, the other item out on that project is the evaluation of different cut and fill options, including rock cuts, soil nail walls, mechanically stabilized earth walls, cast in place concrete walls, and geosynthetic reinforced slopes. So looking at design options where we can minimize right-of-way impacts and construct the road embankment or the cuts at much steeper slopes than soil will normally stand. Trying to minimize our footprint, but yet balancing overall cost of the project to stay within our turnback budget. Also trying to look at right-of-way impacts to the adjacent landowners and trying to minimize those where feasible and economical. So SRF is working on developing alignment options. They have different alignment options developed right now, but they need some additional information from the geotechnical report that we should be seeing in the coming weeks. And then from there, they'll develop somewhat of a decision matrix based on those alignments on cost, right-of-way impacts, timing as far as some of the construction methods and the underlying soils. And our hope and goal is to have information to present to the board at a work session perhaps in September is what we're striving for. So without any setbacks, that's what we've set as an objective.
I was just a comment. I would imagine that the last 2 miles of that road, the northern edge of the road, it's probably helpful having it designated as that historic preservation highway, so you can have some ability to make adjustments that you need to make.
What the natural historic preservation route allows us to do is in areas where we think it's necessary, we can lower the design speed for one slightly, but it also allows us to shrink in the clear width and the shoulder dimensions if we feel it's necessary. So some of those geometric tools allow us to suck the design in a little bit and build on a smaller footprint, so
Yeah.
it's definitely
Yeah,
beneficial.
I would think so.
Certainly.
And cost savings too.
Absolutely.
Saving a lot of dirt and stuff.
Cost savings.
That is, one of the challenges of all these geotechnical methods is that many of them require a significant amount of sand or gravel backfill instead of traditional clay that we would build our roads out of, which we have. Fortunately, we do have some pits within the region that should be able to supply it at a reasonable cost. So we're taking all of those items into consideration. Our crews are, right now, Gene's wrapping up design on County State Highway 14, and Jack should begin right-of-way acquisition within the next week or so. County Road 109 is under preliminary design, and we're moving that along. That'll be a project for our new design engineer that came on staff in the last 3 weeks. His name is Nick Engel, and we're looking forward to having him begin on County Road 109.
County Road 109 is?
North of the ethanol plant.
Okay, sure.
That's
You
correct.
said now, since that's gonna be a paved road, are we gonna move that, change the number from 109 back to under 100 somewhere?
Well,
Because
no,
isn't-
'cause if we put it under 100, it would be a county state aid highway.
Oh.
And it would have to be on our state aid system. We only have, I think, 6/10 of a mile of eligible county state aid highway mileage in the bank that we could use for any
So
application.
this is still a
It'll-
complete county road,
That's
so,
correct.
you know, I know Forsberg told me that most of the roads that are under 100 are paved and over 100 are gravel. so,
Generally speaking, yes.
You know, but,
We do have some county stated highways that are gravel, just because of how they were designated as these systems evolve and change over time. And we do have some county roads that are also paved because they serve a higher classification. So for us to get any additional CASA mileage, we would have to take it to the screening board for approval, and they're very stringent on allowing additional county stated highway mileage, because otherwise everybody would take every mile of paved road to them asking for additional funding.
How long is that road again? Do you remember?
109 is like 3.5 miles. It's from
Isn't that big?
County State Highway 6 to 11 north of the
Yeah.
ethanol plant. Yep.
Okay.
all right.
But the road receives very heavy agricultural traffic, obviously, with the ethanol plant being where it is. CASA 12, Stage 5 from County Road 17 to Minnesota Highway 83. We're at approximately 95% plan development. We've incorporated, or I shouldn't say we, SRF has incorporated MnDOT's and Blue Earth County's comments into the revised plan set. We have those sitting in our office, and our staff are combing through them right now. After we provide any additional comments, the intent would be for those to be provided to MnDOT for review and or comment for getting the plans formally approved. So the project's moving along nicely. We'll also have a tree clearing contract this winter for removal of the trees in order to meet the northern long-eared bat requirements. Talked about Luray Township and Lakeview Road. The County Stated Highway 41 bridge, we had the public open house meeting. We're still working with the landowners as well as the township and county planning and zoning on alignment options, given there is a county ordinance for the acreage of grapes and land for a licensed winery. We're working with George Leary and Dan Vogel at the township to try to resolve those matters and see if we can get some tolerance for a reduction in the acreage, given the impacts are caused by the public works and the bridge replacement project.
We had a lot of people at that meeting that were concerned about a canoe access.
Yes.
Is, you know, if the bridge is moved further to the east, can you use the site of the original bridge?
Well,
in that area for canoe
we may be able
access?
to if the adjacent landowner is favorable to that. The toe of the slope for the new bridge still extends down to about the same limits of what the previous slope did because of the different in-slope rates with the new standards for constructing that. So we don't necessarily gain a lot of additional space on the west side of the bridge by moving it over a little bit.
You know.
And the road is
It doesn't
there.
affect me, but I know there was a lot of people there. But if you could keep that into consideration
Definitely will
while
do.
you're looking into it, and if there's a possibility without costing the county.
Okay. And
the cost factor obviously is huge on that, so it's.
Absolutely.
But if you could do that, I think you'd have a lot of people appreciative of that.
One of the, oh, I'm sorry.
I was just wondering about that too. I didn't really understand some of it when I was there. There's a right-of-way that's already there because of the power lines and things like that. Are those just gonna stay the same, do you think?
Most likely, if the road alignment moves, they'll move the
Yeah,
power
right.
lines over
So
to
they'll-
be
will they
within the
move
new
them
road
over or
right
just
away.
leave them where they are?
We're too early into design to
Oh.
really necessarily say.
Okay.
One of the comments I did get from the canoe group, though, was that the accessibility, we do have additional sites. The next crossing down is at County State Highway 90, where we have a nice parking area and we have a very accessible site, but they had just stated that the slope needs to be cleaned up. So what I kind of garnered from that group, as I discussed it with them at the open house, is that perhaps we should look at just making improvements to the existing canoe access sites that we have, making them more accessible for people to get in and out of the water, versus adding another one, especially where we've got off of the road parking and some of those capabilities, so.
16 is bad too.
16 is.
Have you seen that one?
I haven't been down there recently, no. And it's the challenge with the highly changing
Yeah.
water levels and
Yeah.
the erosion that takes place is it's a constant maintenance activity to keep those landings up and out.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's
The County 17 and Hafner Drive safety improvements have been completed. So we did, as you recall, we installed new striping to narrow the traffic lanes from 12 foot to 11 foot in the 2 through lanes in each direction on 17. We also installed perpendicular speed reduction markings, as well as flashing LED signs with intersection warning ahead, as well as a suggested speed limit. It is not the legal speed limit, but it is a suggested reduction in speed for the intersection approaching. Striping was about $6,000 and the signs were about $3,300. So we were happy to have those completed.
Nice, thank you.
Well, we'll see that. I drive that road quite a bit, and coming from Eagle Lake, I think the striping could have went out further.
Okay.
Could have went more to the east. Obviously, coming from the roundabout, there's not that much distance there anyway.
Correct.
But I think the speed coming in from Eagle Lake is going to be faster. So if they could start seeing those things and start slowing down, it would make a difference. But I mean, let's see what we have here.
Right.
Let's see, if this reduces our accidents, because that's got to be one of the worst intersections in the county for accidents. There's a lot of accidents that occur there, and it's very obviously why. People coming from Hy-Vee or coming from Ford and in that area. A lot of people, especially at certain hours of the day, are coming there just backed up.
Correct.
It might not also be a bad idea, and this would be more of a city thing, is on Hafner Drive to have a, when you're coming from Hy-Vee or coming from the north, to have 2 lanes right there, a right turning lane and a straight and left turn lane. So, and have it marked on the bottom so people know that they're in this lane. Sometimes there's people that are waiting to go ahead that are taking up
Both of the lanes, correct.
both sides, and people that want to take a right-hand turn and go to the roundabout can't do it because there's people in line.
I'll mention that to the city engineer next time I talk to him, which actually we generally speak on about a weekly basis.
Yeah,
so.
it's just something that I noticed that would make a difference.
Okay. And obviously, as we've talked in the past, really what's going to most significantly impact that intersection is when the city extends Adams Street to the east and ties it in. And then also as Carver Road as a road to the north is developed out of our roundabout, providing an easier exit point for those folks that are utilizing all those businesses and the apartments at that corner. That's going to be the biggest factor that's going to take traffic away from Hafner and make it a safer intersection. We're looking forward to completion of that. And as we've discussed, bridges that are still contingent on local bridge bonds are County State Highway 52, 111, 144, the 2 box culverts on that, and obviously the 3 County State Highway 5 bridges. So we have quite a backlog of bridges that are ready to go or that are in development, and we need some bridge bonding to pay for them.
All right.
That's all I have.
Any other questions or comments for Ryan?
Thanks for all your work.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
You wanna
All
take
right.
a short break until we?
Sure, we could take a 4-minute break.
'Cause I have a feeling it's
Okay, 4 minutes. All right, we'll get back to work here. We'll go up and, well, let's continue with the administrative services quick, and then we'll finish our reports.
Sure.
Bob?
All right, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, first item is the county board minutes from July 19th.
Got a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next up would be the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
Someone make a motion to pay the bills?
So
Make
moved.
motion.
Got a first and a second. Discussion?
I already met with Bob yesterday. so,
Okay.
gave it to him.
Anybody else any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 3 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. Just informational items today. We did have a resignation of a custody officer. We've begun recruitment to fill that position. We do have a promotion in the Sheriff's Department from a patrol officer to an investigator. And then behind that is recruitment has been initiated to fill the patrol officer, which then ultimately has been filled. So we are fully staffed there now. We do have the employment of a regional mental health initiative manager that's been completed, along with the hiring of a children's services case aide. And then we also have filled our veteran service officer position, and so Michael McLaughlin will be starting on August 8th in that position. And then we have, I believe, 5 positions that have completed their probationary period and are eligible for salary adjustments.
Very good.
Any questions from the board on the human resources?
Very, very appreciative of the hiring of Michael McLaughlin. I think he's gonna do an amazing job.
Yeah, it'd be good to have that position filled again and
Yep.
move on.
Think we're on.
Court-appointed attorney contract.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 4 in the packet is a memo that outlines some of the issues with the court-appointed attorney contracts. We began these contracts back in 2013, where we pay basically a retainer or a flat monthly fee for 3 attorneys to provide those services to the parents involved in CHIPS, or Child in Need of Protection Services. We were approached by the court administrator's office indicating that some of the attorneys that have held these contracts have indicated the workload has increased significantly, somewhat related to the legislative changes around child protection issues. And so we actually had one attorney indicate that they wanted to terminate the contract midstream. So we met with the court administrator and some of the judges to discuss some of our options, and proposing here that we increase that flat monthly rate from $1,500 a month per attorney to $2,000 per month, and also recommending that we increase the number of attorneys providing these services from 3 to 4 attorneys. The 4th attorney would actually be at that $1,500 a month for the rest of this year, since they're new to the process, but then starting in 2017, they also would be reimbursed that $2,000 a month. So we're recommending this change to try and keep that end of the child protection system functioning. I will tell you that these attorneys that are providing this service do have to go through a specialized certification process, and so we are limited in the terms of the number of attorneys that we could utilize for this service.
I would move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion, questions?
I just got a few questions. I talked with Bob yesterday about it, and I thought some more at home about, this whole issue. I was just wondering what kind of families generally then are served by this type of service? I mean, a court-appointed attorney for CHIPS cases, so children in danger of neglect or abuse. And is it just, if you just tell me in a nutshell maybe, what kind of people would utilize those attorneys?
Well, I believe it'd be parents of children that there's been an allegation of abuse or neglect that have limited resources, so they need the court-appointed attorney to help them be represented in these CHIPS petitions or termination of parental rights cases. They apparently don't have the resources to secure a private attorney to represent them.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's more of a cohort of, because I'm sure there's people that have means that would hire their own attorney then?
I would imagine that'd be the case.
To represent.
These families used to be served by the public defenders.
Yeah.
But the state discontinued that service. I don't remember what year, but
it's close to 10 years ago now.
Really, pretty close, and so the burden fell on the county to provide these services.
Yeah, so the state used to pay for this.
The Public Defender's Office was providing this service. They said, as I understand it, that they didn't see in statute where they were required by law to provide these services, and so when they had some financial struggles during some of those periods where the state budget was in jeopardy, they indicated that they would no longer provide that service, and so the legislature said, counties, you must provide this service or pay for this service.
Yeah. It was just another one of those things with the state legislator that the counties get to pick up the bill.
Yeah, I know. And
I said, why are you
it's a little bit troubling to me, just so you know, it's just a little bit troubling to me. Because it's still, there's still charges that can come out of these. And anybody else that's, in court that doesn't have their own means is allowed to have a public defender that's financed by the state of Minnesota. And so it's just a little troubling that the county has to try to advocate for the same people we're prosecuting. I mean, it's nice that we can do that we can provide some kind of representation in court. I believe it's good that we can do it, but it just seems a little bit different approach.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think those arguments were made 10 years ago and
really?
fell upon deaf ears.
Yeah.
I can remember having the same conversation with one of our district court judges when.
Really?
But,
I bet. How'd that go?
Well, and he ultimately said the burden falls on the county. There was nothing in statute that said that the public defenders had to do, so he said the burden falls on the county. So.
Wow.
So I share your concern on that.
So
welcome
to our world.
Well, yeah, and what we just heard about the laws changing from Mark regarding child reports of possible neglect or abuse, that could increase this whole thing. And is that one reason why we're having to just maybe up it a little bit so they have more compensation, and then also add another attorney?
Sure. There's a direct relation to the change in statute relative to children in need of protective services, that we're seeing more volume go through, and so there's more representation needed, and so some of it is a pure volume issue.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, any other business to take care of, Bob? Otherwise, I'm going to continue.
That's all
with
we
the
had
reports.
today,
All right.
Mr. Chair, except for finishing out those committee
Alrighty.
reports.
Go ahead, Drew.
Okay, I'll shorten it up a little bit here. I've only got about 6 pages, but I'll whittle through them slowly. I mean, quickly.
Is it big? Is it big print?
No, it just, you just think about it. It's an investment of time. Vance and I and whoever, sometimes Will goes or whoever to NACO. Those days become 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour days sometimes, and depending on what involvements we've got going on. I know that you already mentioned Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he spoke at the general session on Saturday, and like you said, he's so thin that it makes him even look taller than 7'2".
He's so tall. But he's written several books, 3 or 4 books at least. And he had a new book there with him for people to sign. I was unable to I wanted to buy several copies for some young men in our community, but it's just too hard to have him sign them for them, you know. There was probably 150 people in line just to buy those books. It was called Writings on the Wall. And his writings about there's life in America, made statements like life in America is increasingly one that is mixed with fear. Things he's been observing. And he really believes that we've come a long way in America. Racial issues, just everything. He just said we should take the credit for where we've come, where we've been, where we are today, and he hopes that we're not going to start going backwards. That's what he sees possibly happening. That we live in a black and white economy, and he just really was calling on people that we can work together. We're all Americans to find the solutions that are needed as Americans, and he was real encouraging that way. And that Jack Dangermond, for the fun of it, I looked up what his value or his worth was, Vance, $3.4 billion. And that's the gentleman that has the software for GIS. And it's being utilized more and more. They're adding more information, more data to that whole thing, all these different layers of mapping and things that occur, so that it helps county boards, helps our planning departments that we have for the future as we use the GIS in different ways. And so he really sees that the future as being, he calls it geodigitizing.
What I loved about that guy,
yeah,
is he is worth, a couple $2 billion. You could sit down, just by the way his actions were, he was just like you and me. You could easily sit down there and have a conversation, and you would not have a clue that he was a very, very rich man. He's just a very nice, not rude at all, down to earth.
Yep. And he stressed something that we as leaders know, but to have the best full understanding you can prior to taking action. That whole idea, and action was in the name of our NACO annual conference, and so that in decision making, when you're dealing with energy or population or climate change or migration, biodiversity, I mean, he went on and on and on. The GIS assists with that by offering the data that's needed to help make decisions. So I thought it was very well done. I'll just go real quick here. I went to a public health preparedness session on Zika, the Zika virus. I went to a session on administrators and administration and the relationship with county attorneys. That was interesting,
It was.
And I mentioned that I stood up and said that our county, we have lunch after our board meetings most of the time, not always, and our county attorney comes, and I said that helps build that relationship and that rapport with your county attorney. And a lot of them like that idea, because a lot of them don't do it. And then went to several sessions. One of them was on reducing unnecessary jail use, and they have different tools for triaging, getting people the chemical dependency help, mental health treatment, and that sort of thing, instead of having them going to jail. So there was quite a bit of sessions related to how to give tools to our law enforcement so that they can actually determine whether or not these charges should be filed or not, or if they maybe be better served by going to a facility or going somewhere for help. And of course, some of these areas where they were doing this, they provided access to those things. Some counties don't have access to anything like that, so they have to go to jail. I went to a couple things on retirement and defined contribution to learn more about that, because I'm interested in our benefits for both us and employees of the county. Talked about Social Security related issues. It's very interesting. By Nationwide, they help put on some of this stuff. And then, of course, reception at the Queen Mary, that big old ship, that was unbelievable. That was just really interesting. Just trying to see if there's anything else that... they have jail reduction measures that are going on too, where they're taking high populated jails and working with the substance abuse and mental health and trying to, like one county in California, they won't even put anybody in jail unless it's at least $25,000 bond, or, you know, what do you call that, a bail or whatever bond thing?
Bail.
Where it holds them in jail, hold.
Yeah.
It's gotta be at least $25,000. And they won't put anybody with a misdemeanor in jail. I mean, they just made decisions, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna deal with them more, so you have more at-risk people there instead of people who probably won't benefit from being in jail. And then more jail stuff. Just anyway, so thank you. It was a very interesting conference. Got a lot out of it, and you know, sometimes I almost think it's too much. What do you think, Vance? I mean, I don't know.
It was 3 days or 4 days?
Well, it starts Friday morning.
Yeah.
Friday morning, Saturday, all day.
And Monday.
Saturday.
4 days.
It's 4 days.
Monday.
It's 4 days.
too?
An
it's Monday
intense
too.
4 days.
It's an intense 4 days.
Yeah.
Leave on Tuesday or leave?
And a
leave
couple
on-
of the evenings there's some social events, you know, which is nice.
Yeah, so you get to start at 7:30 in the morning. You get to go through until about 5 or 5:30, and then if you still
Right. If you're up for it.
aren't too dead tired,
Yep.
because if you try to stay out and party, you got to get back and be there at 7:30 in the morning again. So
I know.
that's for me, I couldn't do that.
I couldn't.
Some people do, but I know.
Well,
some-
Friday night, I skipped the big opening session, which is a new thing that they're doing. They had a big, beautiful open session, and I didn't make it to that. We were tired.
Yeah.
And it started at 8 o'clock at night, and we just did not go. And it's just the way it is. I mean, and I took a different airline, so it took us about probably 8 hours, you know, to get to LA. We had a layover for a few hours.
Yeah.
What's your committees?
Mine?
Yeah, why don't you let them know what you're signed up for committees?
You mean with NACO?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on the health policy steering committee. I talked about
And
that
you're
earlier.
also on the Rural Action Caucus.
Oh, Rural
right?
Action Caucus. I went to the whole thing with the Rural Action Caucus. I got a whole
And
report.
For my sake, I'm on the transportation, retain my leadership position for the airport subcommittee. And then I'm on Rural Action, and then this year I'm also on the Arts and Culture. That's the
That's a
whole
good-
library thing.
Good tie into your library
Yeah,
assignment.
and that's
It is.
that's the reason
very good
I
tie-in.
put in for that. But that's
Yeah.
Is that gonna give us a little more class on the board with you on arts and culture?
anything that can help you out with, Mark.
Okay.
Oh,
All right, anything else, Drew?
No, it's just, you know, that it's good that we can talk about it a little bit, because I think that it's a big investment. I'm still worn down a little bit. Maybe I picked up a bug or something, I don't know, but it worn down from being there a little bit. And stopped to see my sister for a few days in Oregon. I hardly ever get to see her, so that extended it.
Sure.
You know, but
I don't know if I'm worn down from that or having my grandkids over this weekend.
Thank you,
Coin
Drew.
tossed.
thank you very much.
Will?
Yeah, I'll be brief. The new employee group at the Justice Center on the 20th, I was at that, excellent. I love that we do those. It's good to meet the new employees. On the 25th, I had my Rural Minnesota Energy Board meeting. Again, a lot of information on the energy, renewable energy, that type of thing. At that meeting, I found out that there's one of our energy producers here in Blue Earth County is expanding. I had not heard that before that meeting.
Oh, that's huge. You're gonna have,
Yeah. So it was interesting. Of course, Rich Murray's retirement party. Big crowd of people there.
That was probably the worst thing
Yeah.
I had to miss. I mean,
Yeah.
because we flew back on Tuesday,
Yeah,
and I just hated missing that.
Had a great retirement reception there for him. On the 28th, I was at the fair. I had the ribbon cutting in the morning for the 4-H food stand that we contributed money to, and well done project. Excited to see that. Then that evening, Mark and Kip and I and Pat McDermott participated in the Ag Olympics with the 4-H kids down there. We were dubbed as the Kamikaze Commissioners, and we lived up to our name. We all vowed that we would finish without hurting ourselves and be good sportsmen. We were competing against much younger people, and they did
much younger.
very good job. Of course, then I was down there in my booth for the 29th and the 30th. Then yesterday I was at Crystal Seasons and the Lake Crystal Towers, my monthly briefing for those folks over there. So.
Thank you, Will. Mark?
Okay, well, after the board meeting, we had the open house, the county road, or county bridge 41, and of course Sandy's, Schoenberg's retirement, or from the city to the, then of course going to the MSU. Then, the county ambassadors, and then where are we at now? It's about everything, what everybody said. Tanya Angie's leaving, going away. Rich Murray's, and then of course our new employees, that too. And then on that Thursday morning I went to the GMG, the 28th, I went to the GMG's, they had a program on energy savings with the Center for Energy Efficiency with Joe Sullivan. Happened to know Joe, got to know him before that, so I went to that. That was pretty interesting. And then of course, that evening, our partners, we had to cancel the partners meeting, but the Ag Olympics was just the highlight of the week. That was actually, let's say, more fun than I thought. And as Will, our esteemed leader, said, our goal was not to get hurt, and none of us, thankfully, didn't get hurt.
That's a good thing.
I mean, I was in the gunny sack trying to jump, and then hop into a wheelbarrow.
That was the most dangerous part of the whole
thing. And McDermott was the driver. You imagine how...
Yeah.
So anyway, but it was really fun.
Work comp claim went all over it.
And then, the Saturday after, they needed a speaker for the veterans service they usually have there, and... we got Mike McLaughlin came and did a little talk there, and I went to that. He just talked about remembering the veterans. He's pretty a modest kid. He's a good kid, and he didn't say anything about yet being a VSO or anything. He just did his job as a Marine. And they're all Army guys in the audience, but anyway. So that was kind of neat. That basically, I think we got everything.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I have a few things to add. Open house is already mentioned. The county ambassadors, the new employee programs are both mentioned. Tanya's reception, the Murray reception. EMS, we had our monthly meeting there. Everything's going really well there. Mark is starting one new program. We're going to actually charge for first aid and CPR training. And so he's going to hire someone to do that for the private sector. Right now we provide that service for all of the public sectors, but they're going to just try to reach out to some of these. They've getting a lot of people that inquired about that. Can you guys come into our company, our nursing home or whatever, and train our people? It's hard to get everybody to either South Central Technical College or whatever. And so they're just going to try this for a little while. He's been in contact with the people that do provide the service, because the issue I have a lot of times is when you have a private sector service like that, we don't want to take that business away from them, but they're going to work more on these outlying areas that don't really service all of these areas. So they're going to give that a try, and it looks pretty exciting. And they're actually going to bring the instructor in and teach us CPR in one of our classes for the EMS board. So that should be interesting. So Tom Warmka was elected to be the CPR dummy, but he didn't think that was a very good idea. So. But so it might just be a way for us to get that training out into the more rural areas, and so we supported that. And we're going to just try it for 6 months, see how it works. If it doesn't work, we'll just move back to the way we have been. County Fair was mentioned, and the Ag Olympics was a really good time. I was a little wondering what exactly it was, but we had a good showing, and I don't think we were embarrassed by our time. We were off a little bit, but I mean, we were the slowest, but what the heck, we were all over 50 years old, so a lot of them groups were 20 years and 25 years old.
Age discrimination.
So they did really well. Then Saturday night I was out to the fair to recognize the Farm Family of the Year, the Stevens,
Yeah.
and was there just to thank them for their service and farming practices here in Blue Earth County on behalf of the Blue Earth County Board.
Absolutely.
And they had a good turnout for that. And then I had our MRCI meeting yesterday, and everything's going really well at MRCI. And at the end of August, August 27th, we have a program that they'll be putting on. I only have 3, so you guys can each have one. August 27th from 4 to 8. They'll be at the Franklin Rogers Park, the Moondogs, and they're going to have a band and some music and food, wings, and kind of a mini wing fest is kind of
It's a
what
big
it is.
deal.
So, yeah, and so the proceeds will go to MRCI and the Moondogs. So if you're available that night, I think is that a Saturday night? Does it say on there? I think it's a
Says
Saturday
the
night.
date,
So.
27th, I think.
August 27th.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're available that night and can stop in for a few minutes, I'm sure you'd be welcome to come up there and say hi to Brian and the staff up there.
All right.
With that concludes my report. Vance, did you have one more thing, or?
No,
or
I
you got it
mentioned
taken
it
care of
already,
All right.
but thank you very much.
Anything else for good cause?
Just a little fun thing. I was sitting with my wife waiting at one of the airports. I think it might have been Seattle or Portland. I'm trying to remember, but for quite a while. And a gentleman I recognized right away. Nobody else seemed to around me, but do you remember an actor by the name of Fred Willard? Sort of a comedian. He used to be on the Carol Burnett Show. And he's been in a lot of silly, sort of comedic movies and things like that.
He must be getting up there.
He's getting up there. He's probably in his mid-70s. But so I sat and talked with him for a little while.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, anything else to bring before the board?
That's all we have.
Look for a motion to adjourn today.
So move.
Second.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.